Hey guys, welcome to the Apache podcast. Little update. Tony had a health emergency, so it's the reason why we weren't able to cover updates for the last couple of weeks. So we finally found a name for our podcast. We're going to name it Apache Podcast. It's named after one of our unit commander in Ukraine. He is alive and well, and he went by Apache, not Apache. I will be covering for the week of, or this week, July 16th through July 22nd, 23rd, which is today, until Tony feels better, and then we will continue together. All right, let's get started. This definitely has a lot going on, so. Okay, so, let's see if I can do that. Okay. All right, so I believe this is July 16th is when Russia has finally exited out of the grain deal that I believe Turkey has kind of orchestrated for Ukraine and Russia. They finally backed out, and I believe that they won't come back to the table for talks and rejoin the grain deal unless there are some demands that Russia wants. Let me see if there's one that's down here that says it. Yep, I believe it's in purple here. So in April, Moscow issued a series of demands that it wanted to be met in exchange for the renewing of the grain deal, including allowing its agricultural bank to be reconnected to the SWIFT payment system to make it easier to market its own grain, which is also ships across the Black Sea. So what this means is that I believe the U.S. and EU sanctions has imposed heavily restrictions on international payment system, such as SWIFT. So I believe SWIFT is a payment system where they are not allowed to, I guess, have a transaction other than rubles, the Russian currency. I don't think they can have any deal with the other countries without the SWIFT system. I think Russia do have their own bank system. That's why they're able to still have some sort of economic relevance as far as trade to India and partners like China. Okay. So, but kudos to Ukraine because they have stated that they will continue to ship grains in and out of the Black Sea on their own accord. But there is another report that came out saying that both Ukraine and Russia are keeping a close eye to the ships that are going in and out of Black Sea for military cargo. We'll get to that here in a second. I believe it's down here. Potential military vehicle. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one here. So the Kerch Bridge is one of the bridge that has a lot of traffic between, I believe, between Kherson region and the Crimea. It has been damaged due to the Ukrainian surface kamikaze drone. It's a major supply route for the Russians to supply Crimea. Putin have acknowledged and reported the Kremlin will respond. I believe the traffic was stopped for about a day, maybe two, but they have resumed. And what I found funny was the Russians were encouraged, or encouraging its travelers to go through the Ukrainian side to get to Crimea. I found that funny. All right, what's the next one we got here? So it's a Russian couple that was killed, and their 14-year-old daughter is wounded. Okay, so this is the drone that, I guess this is the bridge that was attacked. I think it's the Kerch Bridge. You can see that the bridge kind of collapsed a little bit. I believe on the left side is okay. You can see the people around it, but the right side bridge, I'm not sure how you would fix that. But it's pretty devastating for them. So Russia have retaliated against the West of giving Ukraine cluster munitions and announced that they will increase the usage of cluster bombing. Both sides have utilized highly controversial cluster munitions banned by over 100 countries. I believe it's just the way that how the bombs work, and potentially harming civilians who kind of wander astray for these undetonated cluster munitions and potentially killing themselves. I think I might have skipped one here on accident, but so okay, I guess it doesn't matter. All right, the next one is training of Ukrainian on F-16 pilots will begin in August. See, so a coalition of 11 nations will start training Ukrainian pilots in Denmark, and a training center will be set up in Romania. Officials said that Tuesday on the sidelines of NATO summit in Lithuania. So this was about, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before that. Denmark and Netherlands have been the leading international effort to train pilots as well as support staff. So pretty much the whole air crew that you need to maintain and operate an F-16. There has not been any words on supplying F-16 to Ukraine yet, but I'm assuming that will follow soon after. And Russia have reported that it potentially can be an escalation towards the next stage of the so-called special military operation. All right, let's go to the next day. I guess what's so interesting about this, about why Russia, I'm not sure if Russia is afraid of the F-16. I do know that the Russian style or the Russian jets are operated a little bit differently, and they might not know how to deal with the Western aircraft. I think F-16 is a 4th gen. It might be close to like the I think it's the Su-35. Maybe the Su-35 is a 5th gen. And also the MiG series, the MiG-29, the MiG-31s. But from my time in the Air Force, the F-16 is a very, very well-rounded aircraft. Specializes in air-to-air combat and in essentially a multi-role if needed be. And I believe that's one of the reasons why Russia is afraid of this aircraft, particularly because I believe the F-16 has the capability of carrying a nuclear weapon, but it needs special package for it to enable the nuclear weapon. Okay. The next one we got. So Russia has concentrated more than 100,000 soldiers in the northeast Kapyansk area to try and break Kiev's defenses. I believe the Kharkiv is one of the most northern eastern region, but that's definitely a lot of people that they are consolidating for potential offensive. So according to Ukraine's Army Command East spokesman, Russia has gathered some 100,000 troops. 100,000 troops, 900 tanks, and 555 artillery systems in the area. So that's some serious firepower for additional offensive. This is actually the first time I'm also reading these news articles. I just consolidate a list of topics to talk about and major points, and I'm breaking it down with you guys as we go. So yeah, so the Kharkiv, the Kupiansk, a city in the Ukraine's Kharkiv region. It's a crucial logistic hub and supply route for the Ukrainian invading forces in the east, until Kiev recaptured it during its counteroffensive last fall. So I do know I know quite a bit of people who are in that region, especially the international, I think it's called the Foreign International Legion or something. There's a couple of names, but I know a lot of people that were part of that, especially 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalion. They were heavily involved in the northeastern region. Okay, let's see what's the next one we got. Oh, this one's kind of not relevant anymore. I believe there's a report that's saying that Russia was preparing Grom special forces for the front line, but I need to do a little bit more research on that, so disregard for this one. Okay, so now we're getting to the part that's pretty important. So in retaliation of the Kerch Bridge explosion, Russia have launched mass-scale drone attack on its south region, Odessa, and eastern France. But so this is the first day of the attack, and Ukraine have reported to destroy all the incoming attacks. Okay, so I think going back to the bridge, the Kerch Bridge explosion. The reason why it was such a unique attack tactic is that Russia have a really hard time of detecting of these water surface drones, or water unmanned surface vehicle, I think that's what they're called. And they can do a lot of damage, especially in the Crimea Peninsula, because it's essentially an island, and it's surrounded by water. So you're gonna have to have 360 detection, and I believe these are not your regular boat or submarines, anything like that. So I believe these are much smaller, and they can pack a punch, as you see you can see from the bridge picture. Okay. Next one we have is okay. So a top U.S. General Mark Milley said that Ukraine counteroffensive is far from failure. Let me see if I can find the notes. Despite its slow progress, I believe the slow progress is due to late start, and the Russians were kind of expecting it for some time. This isn't a hush-hush news. I believe the Ukrainian propaganda and state media have, pretty much announced this counteroffensive to the world, so everybody knows that it was coming. It was just a matter of when. And I believe that the Russians have, plenty of time to prepare their defenses for the counteroffensive. Zelensky have reported that the counteroffensive will regain its pace, so I believe it might pick up again. I'm not sure what that means. I hope that means a little bit more heavier attack. But there will be a couple more updates further down. I will mention about how Putin have viewed this as a failed counteroffensive. Okay. So going back to this one, there's another report that I read, I think today, that Ukraine has captured, during its counteroffensive, Ukraine has recaptured 50% of all the territories that Russia has captured. So, which is a very, very astronomical in the grand scheme. Okay, next one. U.S. and NATO grapple with critical ammo shortage for Ukraine. I'm not sure. I believe UK has also acknowledged the shortage of ammunition, and both organizations have reported to increase production for the ammunition for the Ukrainians. I think correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that the U.S. has a large stockpile of 155 millimeter artillery rounds or cluster munitions. I'm not sure which one, but I do know that that's the one that they are currently utilizing. I believe it is the cluster munition that they're using. It's the 155. Okay, so this one is very interesting as well. Okay, let me see. So Russian President Putin have announced that he's debating on participating a summit in Africa during the month of August, because the African community or South Africa is obligated and to arrest Putin due to its International Criminal Court that was issued early this year or late last year. I don't recall when it came out. I think it might have been early this year, which could cause issue as South Africa is obligated to arrest Putin according to his signatory, and can potentially cause issues and cause the relationship between the two countries to sour. Let's see if there's another thing I said. Okay, I guess that's all I have. There's a part 2 to this that I will mention down the road. Let me see if I have it. Okay, maybe I deleted it on accident. But so BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So those are the new summit. There's a plenty of reports that the BRICS is going to replace dollars and this and that. So okay, so this is the part 2. So Putin will not attend the South African summit or the BRICS summit in August, avoiding possible arrest because, as I mentioned, South Africa is a signatory to the ICC pact, so they are obligated to arrest. Let me see if does it say someone else will? Okay, so by mutual agreement, President Putin of the Russian Federation will not attend the summit, but the Russian Federation will be represented by Foreign Minister Mr. Sergei Lavrov. Yeah, I think the Foreign Minister, I think that's the same guy. That's also part of UN as well. Actually, speaking of the UN, there was a question that I mentioned that I wanted to ask you guys. How much does the representatives of Russia, such as the Russian ambassador to US and the UN, for example, this guy, Foreign Minister, Mr. Sergei Lavrov, how much influence do they have with the Kremlin, the coronation? To me, it seems like they are, the Kremlin is doing one thing, and the foreign representative or the Russian representative is claiming the complete opposite. I'm not sure if that's part of a joke that they are orchestrating, but just something that I kind of find hysterical. Okay. So Kremlin confirmed to Russian state media that the foreign minister, he will attend in person, and Putin will have full participation in the conference remotely by video. So, okay, the next one we have the G20 finance ministers meeting in India ends without consensus. So this one I need to do a little bit more research, but from my understanding is that the G20 financial representative have finished their meeting. I think this might have been a part 3 meeting. In India, unable to agree due to the differences of view on the Russian-Ukraine war and the take on Russia not renewing the grain deal. I think down here it says that one of the part is that the I think it's this one. Consensus eluded a meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors of the group of 20 countries that ended Tuesday in India, as members failed to bridge their differences on Russia's war in Ukraine. So, going back to the BRICS, the alliance, the BRICS alliance, India is part of the alliance with Russia. So, it could be that that they don't want to sour the relationship between India and Russia. So that could be the potential cause that India might be hesitant on, I guess, on kind of picking a side. I believe they are, unspokenly kind of picked a side for Russia. Yeah, don't mind him in the back. Okay. See if there's more to this. So yeah, so several G20 members also condemned Russia for refusing to extend a deal to allow critical Ukrainian grain export through the Black Sea. India's finance minister said at the press conference. Another thing that I want to cover is the BRICS, because South Africa is also in the alliance, and I'm trying to. I definitely believe that they are going to discuss the grain deal, because if the Ukrainians aren't able to export its grain to the African community, the African continent, I believe South Africa will definitely feel the economic differences that it causes. Okay, let's see if there's any more. I believe the grain price has spiked due to the grain deal not being renewed. Okay. Next one we have. So multiple explosions on a ammo depot within Crimea. Thousands evacuated. So what's I think I read another report today that I think this might have been the third or the fourth attack on Crimea, maybe more. I think there's a couple attacks on an ammo depot this week. I think this is the first. This is one that happened earlier this week, and then there's another one that was later this week. So thousands evacuated. Let's see if we can watch this for a little bit. Yeah, you can see the smoke that's out of the ammo depot. In the ongoing fire. Was that I don't know if you saw that. I'm not sure if that was air defense. So Kiev claimed responsible for the attack. A successful operation was conducted on occupied Crimea. Okay. And there's reports saying that it might take up to 2 days to put out the fire. Okay. Oops. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Going back to I think there's another thing that I have here. Going back to the grain deal. I believe there's reports of Russia causing humanitarian crisis. I think they are bombing the grain site storage in Odessa region. They attacked the facilities the day after the grain deal failed to extend by the Kremlin. So I think that might have humanitarian implications from UN. Just keep that in mind. I think I might have hit. I think I have a page on that, but okay. So this was the Wagner's Prigozhin apparently seen in public for the first time since its failed mutiny. Let me see if I have something for that. I know I did, but I might have deleted it on accident again. Okay, so I guess there's another question that I wanted to ask you guys is, how much does the news media really tell the truth when it comes to reports on what Russia is saying and what Belarus is saying? I think about a week ago, there's reports on Lukashenko was stating that he doesn't know where Prigozhin is, but he is not in Belarus. He might have went inside Russia for some time. And I believe here he is seen again for the first time. I believe he was greeting his Wagner troops. I think, I'm not sure if Prigozhin is a friendly figure within the Kremlin. I do know that Putin has a special place for those individuals that defy him. I think there's another journalist that was arrested for I forgot what he did, but I think there was a journalist that was arrested this week. I think it was a Russian journalist that was arrested. Okay. Okay, I think, yeah, it is this one. So Russia bombs Ukraine grain silos in barbarian attack on food supplies. So, and of course, this is definitely in the port cities of Odessa. So Russia has bombed Ukrainian port cities for a third consecutive night, after warning that we would treat grain ships as military targets. A threat EU said to demonstrate Moscow's barbaric attitude as it attacks food supplies. So the strike on the Black Sea port of Odessa and nearby Mykolaiv early on Thursday killed 3 people and 23 has been injured. So it's Mykolaiv and Odessa region that was attacked. So me and Tony were not stationed, but we were operating out of the Mykolaiv region, the Kherson region. I think they've destroyed probably a couple 100,000 tons now, by now, of grains, or destroyed. The number could be higher. That's the last time I checked. Okay. Let's pause that. So this is one of the statement that I mentioned from early on. So Ukraine to treat ships on the way to Russian ports as potential carrier of military cargo, vice versa. Or Russia will also view Ukrainian seacraft as potential military asset and carriers of military cargo. And same thing too, and I believe that's the reason why Russia heavily attacked the Black Sea grain cargo that the Ukrainians were exporting. Okay. So this is the attack for for Odessa and the southern seaport region. So Russia has, I'm not sure why the picture of elephants is relevant, actually, don't mind it, but Russia has used 90 drones. So these are the Iranian Shahed kamikaze drones, and 70 different missiles to attack Ukraine for 4 days. I believe that is all in the seaport of Odessa. And that actually is not 4 days, that's actually 5 days and counting. They are really hitting hard back, either they really don't want any of the grains to leave the seaport cities, or they were pretty upset about the Kerch Bridge and retaliating. So for the drones, I read something today that the Iranian Shahed drones the Iranians were having issues with its top leaders and I think they came out with a news report saying that the Iranians have not shipped any drones to Russia after the war or during the war, but they only shipped the drones before the war even started. So I'm pretty sure that's not true. Yeah, don't mind my background. 4 days in attacks on the cities of Odessa, Mykolaiv, and other locations in the southern Ukraine. Oh, and that's Tony there. Don't mind him. He's a little sick. Um, and the Ukrainian air defenses are not their capabilities are not enough to protect the whole sky of Ukraine. I know that they have heavy air defense systems in the central city of Kiev and Lviv, I believe. Uh, but I do know that the frontline zones are definitely lacking in air defense capabilities. Okay. So, and Ukraine is ready to accept all risk and continue exporting grain through the Black Sea. So, kudos for them. Okay. So Russians Wagner mercenary launches joint training with Belarusian military near Poland's border. So there's reports of the after the Wagner's failed mutiny, most of the or I guess just the Wagner people that were inside of Russia kind of got pulled into Belarus as a safe sanctuary to avoid potential consequence from Russia and from the Kremlin. Okay, I think so. Some NATO representatives are afraid of the Wagner buildup along the borders of Poland and Belarus. I believe, I don't know if these guys, if the Wagner have enough to go up against Poland. I guess that's kind of NATO territory at this point. Or if they're thinking about potentially attacking Poland or any of the Baltic countries. Okay, so Zelensky have contacted the Turkey President Erdogan, I think it's Erdogan, over potentially of reviving the grain deal. One of the questions that I want to ask you guys is, do you think that Russia pulled out of the grain deal because the grain deal was kind of brokered through Turkey, Ukraine, and Russia? Do you think that it's Russians' way of retaliating due to Turkey's support for Sweden's NATO membership? I believe before the NATO summit, just the day before, Turkey have cleared the way for Sweden's NATO membership. So to me, I think Russia didn't acknowledge this was one of the reason. I believe that it definitely, played a part. But so it was initially, so here's the grain deal. So initially valid for 120 days, the grain initiative was extended in mid-November for another 120 days until March 18th, and then Russia agreed to extend the DS for 60 days this time, and another 60 days. So that's a total of 360 days. So that's roughly a year, just about a year or so that the grain deal was active. Moscow suspended its participation in the agreement on July 17th, saying that it would return to the deal as soon as the Russian part of the agreement is fulfilled. I'm assuming that's heavily dependent on the international trade or transaction system of being lifted, such as SWIFT. But yeah, let's see what we have next. Okay. So Zelensky said the Kerch Bridge feeds the war, and the Russia's link to Crimea must be neutralized. I do know how much the importance of Crimea, not the Crimea Bridge, the Kerch Bridge. Most people call it the Crimea Bridge, but I was corrected. Actually, it's actually called the Kerch Bridge. And just because it's pretty much a one-way in from the Russian side or the Ukrainian side into the peninsula. So if the supply route is cut off, it can cripple and keep Crimea contained without any resupplying whatsoever. And I think Zelensky, let me see if I have anything. Zelensky has vowed to cripple Kerch Bridge, stating the importance to its annexed territory and a critical traffic route to Crimea, and eventually reclaim the peninsula. So that's definitely a good thing to hear. The Kerch Bridge must be neutralized. This is one of the, I believe, a controversial topic. So Zelensky said that the bridge is a legitimate military target as Russia uses to feed the war. I kind of understand what this means, but it's also a major road. So the bridge opened in 2008 and links the illegally occupied Crimea Peninsula with Russia. So 4 years after the annexation. The Kerch Bridge is about 12 miles long. Not just cars, but rail traffic. So it's been attacked twice. Last October with a bomb placed inside the truck. I do remember that. So they did finally acknowledge the car bomb attack or the truck bomb attack this month. So, feed the war, I guess it means that in the Crimea Bridge, this is not just a logistical road. This is the road used to feed the war with ammunition, and this has been done on a daily basis. So, I believe they are bringing supplies through Crimea and potentially into the Black Sea Fleet. And I think this might be the last little bit. So this weekend, Lukashenko has visited, or Russia has hosted for Belarusian President Lukashenko. And Putin said the Ukrainian counteroffensive have failed. Let's see if this guy anything to say about this. Native city of St. Petersburg, so that's where they met. Meeting was on Sunday, which is today. They're discussing on Belarus now hosts Wagner fighters on the territory after Lukashenko brokered a deal that convinced Prigozhin to end the march on Moscow and exile himself to Belarus. I'm not sure if I covered in my previous podcast. Oh, well, I did probably, but apologies for the sound issues. Hopefully this one it works. But I think Lukashenko brokered a deal that convinced Prigozhin to stop in exchange for, I think it was 2, potentially 3 Russian officials to step down. Defense Minister Sergei something, I forgot his name, and another general. Oh, that's interesting. So it looks like Lukashenko didn't believe in counteroffensive, but Putin said that it does exist, but it failed. So okay, so this is another part about the NATO border. So Telegram channel linked to the Lukashenko quoting him as saying in a jocular tone. The fighter of the Russian Wagner group, who are now training Belarus's army, were keen to push across the border into NATO member Poland. I'm not sure if Belarus and Russia really want to take on NATO. I'd like to see that. Okay. I believe that is all. Yep, that is all for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I apologize for the past podcast for not having sound issues. Hopefully, I'll get that fixed. It's just little mistakes here and there, but I'll see you guys for the next podcast.